Welcome back, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming back. Thanks a lot for subscribing and sticking with me. I'm getting a lot of great comments, so I'm glad to hear that people are enjoying the videos and getting something out of it. It really makes doing the videos worthwhile, and I mean, I'm having fun doing it, don't get me wrong, but to know that people are actually benefiting from it as well, enjoyment all around. So today I've got some more I'm going to try live on YouTube experiments. Starting right off, there's a book, see if I can get it in screen. It's Weathering by Tom Mann, and if you're not familiar with his work, well, as you can see from the cover, these are just a few examples of things that he's done. And this book is all about the different techniques that he uses, from airbrushing to using washes to what else does he have in here? I mean, it covers the entire gamut. I mean, and here you can kind of see if it shows up. I don't want to show the entire book. That might be copyright infringement. But he goes into heavy detail on how to get realistic rust, and I gotta admit, I've tried and tried, but this is just a fantasy book for me ultimately, because I've never come close to replicating this. However, he does have a technique in here that he calls salt weathering, I believe. Well, random paint effects with salt is the name of the section. And essentially what he does is he takes thick or heavy salt, let's see, he uses sea salt, and it's I know videos that I've seen, it's a large granule salt, so not necessarily table salt, but maybe the larger it can get, the better. And basically he soaks it in water, doesn't let the salt completely dissolve in the water, and then he applies it to the surface of a model. And then he sprays the model and washes off the salt, and what's left underneath where the salt was is the paint, the base coat, the primer, and so he uses it to get random paint. And you can see here's two examples of there's the salt being applied, and then there's the end result once you take it off. Now obviously these require a lot of additional weathering, but it has the added effect of giving you a base coat and then bringing out, you've got a color over the top and you've got a base coat showing through, so weathered wood, steel, what have you. So as I said in my last video, what I have an old structure. This is a Walther's kit. It was a grain silo, grain tower, and it doesn't fit my era anymore. So I thought what I'd do is I would give it a base coat of maybe a light brown to simulate wood siding, and then I'm going to go ahead and try applying some of the salt method and put it, coat it, and then paint it white. The white won't cover the brown real well, obviously, but that's okay. I want the white to look weathered and careworn, and then I'm going to remove that and see how that looks. See if it gives the effect of paint peeling off the sides of the building. And then you can see here this has got simulated aluminum or a steel roof. So this will be easy enough to come back and I'll paint it silver, and then dry brush on some rust and things like that. So that's the project for this video. See how it turns out, and if it's a failure, it's a failure, and you know not to try it. So before we get started with that, however, I got a few new things I wanted to show you. I know I've talked about it before, but I'll kind of reiterate again. HO Interchange Group on Yahoo. I love it and I hate it. Unfortunately, you get the digest, the email digest every day. In my case, I get it every day, and there's always something that attracts me. Somebody's selling something, and I've sold things on there as well, but I buy more than I sell. Well, this past week, a gentleman was selling a Medusa cement company, so I picked this up for a reasonable price. And I also, one of my favorite railroads was always Chicago and Northwestern. My grandfather and I used to go to the Mitchell Yard here in Milwaukee, and we used to watch trains. I used to love going down there and watching trains. The switcher would be shunting cars in the yard. So Chicago and Northwestern has always had a place in my heart, and the same guy selling the Medusa Cement Company was also selling several of these grain cars. And so I picked up a bunch of these, 3 of them. They've already got Katie's on them. I'll have to throw some metal wheel sets on them, but and weather them up and everything. Because I'm still modeling Wisconsin Central, so by the time that they were still in use, but they're going to need to look a little bit more beaten up than this. So I also picked up an older Thurn Blue Box, Rock Island, and then the equivalent basically in a Proto 2000, and this is a kit. So I love building kits. There's not enough of them around anymore, so when I can pick up a kit, I will. So those are future projects, but for now, let's get to some sea salt weathering. Okay, so phase 1 of the sea salt weathering method, I'm going to paint the structure and undercoat of, well, I decided on, mainly because I have it, a Badger, let's see, Model Flex Illinois Central Brown. It's just a basic brown color, but I think it'll represent well on the model, like a wood underneath the paint. So I'm not too worried about coverage. As you can see, this has been painted. I attempted to paint it I think this is like an olive drab or something like that, or Depot Buff or something. But I thought I'd go with the brown underneath, and then we will put the sea salt on and let that dry, and then spray it all white. Okay, so phase 2, we've got the structures painted. Went with that the rail brown color, or the Illinois Central Brown. It's been a few days since I painted them, so I kind of forgot. But now, so the technique according to Tom Mann's book, if we look it up here, it says basically you take the sea salt and you spread it over the top of the finished painted structure, and you wet the surface with water, and then you sprinkle on the salt, and then you let it evaporate. And when the water evaporates, the salt will have dissolved slightly and then adhered to the surface. Then you paint the final color that you want, brush off the salt, and then hopefully you get the effect of the paint showing through. So what I did was I went to the grocery store and I picked up a container of Morton sea salt, and that's actually what he recommends. Not this particular brand, but sea salt. And his comment in the book was just basically that sea salt, the granules are all sorts of different sizes. And I just got a coarse. The extra coarse was a little too big. I thought coarse would work well. The other thing you could do is if the granules are too big, you could always put it in like a Ziploc bag, hit it with a hammer a couple times. You probably break the granules up a little bit, maybe get sized pieces that you can use. So and I'm gonna wet the surface with just a mug of water, just tap water. I don't know if the minerals in the tap water are gonna affect how it evaporates and how it adheres, so we'll give it a shot and see what happens. I'm gonna brush the water on with a larger brush just to get a good coating, and then sprinkle on the salt. Unfortunately, it's going to take a bit of time because the salt will have to evaporate, so I'm only going to be able to do one side of the structure at a time. So this is a little bit of a time-consuming process. So I'll do one side, and then we'll fast forward to once I've got all 4 sides done. So let's flip over to the workbench and we'll apply the first coat. Alright, well, like I said, this is kind of a live on-air type thing, so we're just going to go ahead, and I've got my 1-inch brush here, so I'm just going to apply a little bit of water in areas, Now wherever you apply salt and water is where it's going to stick. So I'm just going to go ahead and randomly throw some water on here. I know this is exciting stuff, watching me put water on a model. I'll do this guy as well. Alright, I'm going to apply a little more water for things to stick a little bit better in areas. Okay, so we've got, I think this is phase 2, I guess. So we've got the brown undercoat, and now I've applied the sea salt. So this has taken a better part of 2 days. I would wet each surface like I showed, and then apply the salt. Now you can see here, this is what it looks like when it's actually dried. The salt basically turns back to white. This particular salt, when I put it on, would actually almost look clear, and I knew it was dry once it had returned to white. Now, one of the things that you can do, and Tom Mann suggests this in his book, is you can actually push parts of the salt back together, and just if you can see, just in areas like this, you just with the paintbrush, as you apply it, just you group it back up, and you can get clumps of salt. And you can see, I don't know if it shows up real well, but as you can see, I tried to clump some areas in here, but you can see I've got it applied on all 4 sides, and it looks interesting at the moment. There's also some powdered salt that got into here, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes out when I start brushing it off. And then here's this guy. This is the secondary building that I wanted to do as well. So next step is a white brush or white airbrush over all of this. So flip over to that and do phase 3. Okay, so this is my airbrush setup. I use an Iwata Eclipse Media HPCS with the gravity feed cup. It's a dual action airbrush. I really like this airbrush. It works really well for acrylics, and you've got a smaller mixing container, but for most model railroad purposes it really does well. And then I've got, this is just my spray booth. I don't have an actual spray booth, but just an old box, and I cut the top and side off. And then I've got a Lazy Susan in here, so I can rotate my work as I'm painting. So as for the paint, went with a Reefer White Polyscale again. I mixed it with 1 part marmalade, Windex, and then to 4 parts paint, and got the consistency of looks a little bit like milk. So that's what we're going to go with. Probably won't videotape the actual airbrushing because the compressor will be going and won't really be all that interesting. Okay, moment of truth, I guess. As you can see, the white coat went on, and the brown is definitely showing through, which is okay. We're looking for a real weathered look on this building anyway. So if the brown is starting to show through, and I think no matter what I do here, once I get the salt knocked off here, I'm going to come back with a white wash, and just to create the effect of a streaking, say that it was painted, maybe it rained, or the paint is just washed over time. So these spots are probably going to show up pretty bright. There's already some on the other side here, but so in Tom Mann's book he just says take a brush and start knocking the salt off. So I just got a bag here to catch any of it, so let's see what happens. But that's the effect. Okay, I guess it isn't exactly what I expected, but there it is. It looks a little hodgepodge, a little maybe like mold. So I think it's definitely going to take some additional work here. We'll have to see what else we can do with this to clean it up a little bit more, I think. I'm going to knock the rest of it off on the other four sides and do the other building, and then we're going to take a look at it again. And I guess it's a work in progress. We can't judge it yet. Okay, so here's the finished product, kind of. In trying to get the salt off, I've discovered a few things. Lessons learned for next time, we'll call it. This is actually after I've applied a wash of white acrylic paint. Same thing I've used in the past for my rock molds, just standard craft paint. One of the things I found as I was trying to get the salt off, however, was that it really didn't want to come off. Now, I think that's a combination of a few things. I sprinkled the salt on directly from the canister, and I think the next time I do this, I will put the salt into something and then sprinkle it on by hand, just as if you were, salting your food. But I think I got too much fine granules of crushed salt from the container, and you can kind of see that showing up in areas in this, up in here, where there appears to be a powder. Now, it kind of had a neat effect. However, it made getting the salt off quite difficult because that really stuck. So what I ended up using was this piece of old masonite that I had, and I just went and I scraped along, and this worked really well to knock the salt off. And you can see that in areas where I didn't necessarily get the voids all over the place. However, I think it had a good effect regardless. It's giving it a good bubbled and blistered paint effect. And I do plan to put some weathering washes over the top of this, and kind of give this a little bit more work and see what happens. This building definitely needs it. This one looks a little bit more, a little bit too pockmarked, I guess is the term I'm looking for. So going to weather these up a little bit more. Going to work on painting the roof. This one actually isn't too bad, but getting the coat on the roof, and then start with weathering and rusting the roof then. So that's phase 3, I guess. I've kind of lost track of what phases we're in here, but so whatever phase it is, we're going to start that next. Okay, well, that's weathering with sea salt, I guess, as Tom Mann's book calls it. I don't know what I'd call it. I guess I like the results. It looks a little bit different. It's a unique look, or trying to achieve that flaking paint effect. Thought I'd give it a shot. I kind of like how it turned out. So I'm going to call this part 1 of this series. I think the next part, or next follow-up video, I'm going to try and finish that scene off. I'm going to work with putting in another asphalt road like I did with the scrapyard, and then finish off the scene with a lot of trees and overgrowth and stuff like that. Since this is going to be an abandoned grain tower, I figure it's going to be more of a disused and stuff like that. debating on chain link fence and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, as I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, I am a cyclist. I ride quite a bit actually. So the one thing I go through a lot of is tubes. It's inevitable. You run stuff over, especially when the roads are wet. You pick up a lot of stones and they pierce these things. And as much as you try and patch them, the patches just don't work when you're running 110 psi in these things. So I was just about to throw a bunch of these out, and I thought there's got to be something we can use these for. And so I cut off a section, and the beauty is they cut quite easily with just a pair of scissors. And so then I took my X-Acto and ended up cutting off some strips. I don't know if they'll show up here, but I basically created bungee cords. I don't know if these are going to show up at all, but I cut them as thin as I could, just with using an X-Acto and a straight edge. And I think, honestly, I'll have to test it out a little bit, but they're stretchy. As you can see, they're made to expand, so they've got quite a bit of elasticity in them, which makes them ideal for, in my opinion, working as tie downs for, you know, a center beam, flat car hauling lumber. You know, you got a pipe load on a flat car or in a gondola or something like that. You know, I just cut two of them out. Now I know a lot of people like to use electrical tape. That, you know, that works too, obviously. But if you're a cyclist like myself, you've got a bunch of tubes laying around, you're about to throw them out, save a few sections and you can cut out a bunch of these. These are a little bit thick, I will say. You know, in terms of scale, they probably are, you know, almost like a 2x4 thick, not like you're banding. However, if they're on a car, the nice thing is that they are quite elastic, so you don't have to worry about breaking them, and you can really kind of get, you know, pull them tight and then adhere them with some super glue or, you know, something along those lines. So just thought I'd share that tip. If you've got tubes and you're looking to throw them out, maybe save one and you got yourself some tie downs. So that's it for this week. Hopefully I showed you maybe what not to do with sea salt weathering. Maybe I showed you what to do. If nothing else, maybe, you know, pick up Tom Mann's book. I highly recommend it. It's a great read. It's like I said, for me, it's a fantasy inspiration type book. So if nothing else, it's a great reference. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for coming and subscribing. And thanks to all the new subscribers. And we'll see you next video.